Here's just a very short but pivotal paragraph from Roe v. Wade, 1973. This right of privacy, whether it be founded in the 14th Amendment's concept of personal liberty and restrictions upon state action, as we feel it is, or as the district court determined in the 9th Amendment's reservation of rights to the people, is broad enough to encompass a woman's decision whether or not to terminate her pregnancy. The detriment that the state would impose upon the pregnant woman by denying this choice altogether is apparent. Specific and direct harm, medically diagnosable even in early pregnancy, may be involved. Maternity or additional offspring may force upon the woman a distressful life and future. Psychological harm may be imminent. Mental and physical health may be taxed by childcare. There is also the distress for all concerned associated with the unwanted child, and there is the problem of bringing a child into a family already unable, psychologically and otherwise, to care for it. In other cases, as in this one, the additional difficulties and continuing stigma of unwed motherhood may be involved. All these are factors the woman and her responsible physician necessarily will consider in consultation. Now, I am not a constitutional lawyer. This is not going to be a fine-grained analysis of case law. You should look elsewhere for that. I am a cultural historian, right, and a deliverer of classical education. And for 3 weeks now, what I've been trying to do is equip you with the deep history of this stuff, going back thousands of years. How have we arrived at the point where we're thinking this way? And what has gone wrong? And what are we trying to recover? So whenever we start talking about rights, that's when my kind of bat signal goes off. And I start to think, well, okay, rights from whom? Who gives you the rights? The Declaration of Independence says that it is the Creator who endows us with them, right? And again, whatever your personal religious beliefs, that's the logic of the country that you're living in. And once you sweep that away, let us look at how you begin to worship other things. Because here's the thing about this paragraph that I just read from Roe v. Wade. It shows very clearly that from the beginning of this discussion, the safe, legal, and rare thing was always doomed to fail. Let me say why. There are, of course, different notions and conceptions of viability and how late is okay to terminate, quote unquote, terminate a pregnancy that have evolved since Roe, right then, and Casey, and these questions that have come up. I mean, Dobbs is involved with it too, because the Missouri law that Dobbs, the current Supreme Court case, addresses, I believe, makes it illegal to terminate a pregnancy, to have an abortion after 15 weeks. But why is it that this was always built in? Well, look at the reasoning that Blackman gives for why you might want to have an abortion. Maternity or additional offspring may force upon the woman a distressful life and future. Psychological harm may be imminent. Mental and physical health may be taxed by childcare. All of these reasons, right, which have nothing to do with the actual threat to the life, the physical life of the mother, and have everything to do with quality of life of the baby and mother. And I said at the beginning that when you put the state in the position of evaluating the relative worth of human life, then you have departed from the traditional natural law, classical rights understanding, which is based on the imago Dei, the image of God, that all persons are endowed by their Creator because they're made in God's image. They are endowed with the right to life. And so you can read in this paragraph that Blackman is not weighing the relative rights of two separate persons. He's looking at this one person, the mother, and he has already dismissed the notion that the baby in her womb is anything other than a clump of cells. And you note that he starts flipping between the child outside the womb, who might be, taxed with, who might be an undue burden and might have a bad life and all of these things. And of course, we acknowledge that there are many challenges, and a lot of Christian groups exist specifically to address these challenges. But note that he talks about it as a child there and not as a child in the womb, because the logic here is that the infant in the mother's womb does not have rights, right? And this is the sort of secret corruption, the secret corrosion, which is, I guess, not so secret anymore, inherent in this religious text, right? The right of privacy. We're talking here, of course, about substantive due process, right? The 14th Amendment protects, says that no state shall deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Some people think that due process is the most important thing, meaning that you're just protecting certain legal procedures. But other people say, no, we're here, therefore, in the business of enforcing rights and making sure that the states don't violate specific rights, such as the right to privacy. So here's Blackmun in Roe, right, attributing that right to mothers in such a way as to completely obviate and invalidate the very notion on which rights are founded, which is the idea that all men are endowed by their creator. The fundamental question is not whether the mother has a right to privacy. And we always have to come back to this in this debate. We have to insist upon it. The fundamental question is not, does or does not the woman have a right to bodily autonomy or privacy, whatever. I concede that she has all of those rights. The fundamental question is, are we dealing with another person, another human being who also is endowed with those rights? And once you get into that position, then you're thinking classically, then you're asking the natural law question, because you're acknowledging the foundation on which rights are built, which is, again, the universal, right? The fundamental equality of man and humanity in this respect, that if you are a person, you are in the image of God, and no man may take your life unjustly and without just cause.